All right, guests, welcome back to the podcast. And today we have the pleasure of speaking to Maureen Burford, who's the executive director for Creative Lives Incorporated. I'm fascinated to talk to her about the program that they run based off of Ellen Todd's framework in really developing the spiritual end and the metaphysical end of children in teaching. And I was fascinated by what I learned from their website and can't wait to speak to her about the rest of it. Thank you for joining us, Maureen.
It's so great to be here with you, Kevin. I'm delighted to have this conversation.
Yeah, and I want to thank you so much for doing this type of work. I call people like you white light warriors that provide white light to the world, and there need to be more of us out there. And when I was looking at your information, I found it so amazing that to bring up to try to teach people that are teaching kids, coaching them, dealing with them in general on how to use their chakras in their daily decisions. And so, first of all, where are you calling us from?
I'm in Vermont. I'm right in the middle of the east side of Vermont near Hanover, New Hampshire, and it's really pretty and really quiet where I live. So delight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be plus the fall with with all your trees. It's got to be
Yeah.
gorgeous.
We had snow on the ground this morning, so fall may be leaving us quickly. We're getting into those cold months. Yeah.
Yeah, we
But
got
I
belted
grew
here.
up in California. So Vermont is my home now, but I still feel the seasonal difference between the West Coast and the East Coast when I'm here.
Right. How long ago did you move from California?
A long time. When I was 18, I went to college on the
Oh,
East Coast and I never moved back. Yeah, so I've been here a long time.
wow. Did you say you went to school on the East Coast? Did
I
you?
did.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Cornell up in Ithaca, New York, and that was really cold.
Well, and that is what a difficult school to get into. You must be quite bright.
Well, there were a lot of bright people there, but one of the things that's so interesting about Cornell is just because you're bright doesn't mean you're wise. And there were a lot of students struggling, just as bright as they were. So, this is part of where my whole impetus to understand more about human development began. Why am I struggling so much? Why are other people struggling? What is going on? What didn't I learn as I was progressing through these great schools in Palo Alto and got into Cornell? And yes, I had amazing teachers, but still there were missing pieces. And so Cornell was really a launching pad for this search for how to better
Yeah.
understand myself and others. And
Mhm.
ultimately, because I became a mother and a teacher, how to empower young people with more agency in their own learning and well being. How could I do that?
Yes. Now, because I am a Reiki master myself, I have studied the chakras for about 15 years. I went into it because I was seeing spirits when I was a little boy, and I was born with certain gifts that I didn't know how to understand. I was an excellent student like you were, and there was nothing that I was learning was explaining this part of
Yeah,
life to me. And
yeah,
so that's why I'm fast I couldn't believe it when I started doing research on your company, what you're doing, how much it really relates to me. And
yeah.
so I guess I want to start with, okay, so you get done with Cornell. What type of path did you start down? Or what did you graduate with? What did you want to
I
be?
trained in music. I was a music performance major, so I did a lot of concertizing at Cornell, and I thought but after it, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I kind
Mm,
of followed the bouncing ball. My main question was, I had really had my parents got divorced when I was a junior, and it really affected me. And I
yeah.
wanted to understand why I got so thrown by that and how I could get steadier. So I had a lot of helpers along the way as I
Mm,
became a musician. And then I thought I'm more interested in kids and how they develop. That was a passion from the day my sister was born. And she's 6 years younger. And I was just thinking this morning that holding that little baby in my arms was part of the impetus for wanting to work with kids as I became an adult. So there was kind of a lot of people go through this. You did too, probably, Kevin,
yeah,
kind of a curvy period of
sure did.
following the bouncing ball. Like, where does life taking me next? Because
Yeah.
probably neither one of us could have imagined at that age what we would be doing now. I
No,
didn't know
absolutely.
what I did existed. I couldn't have thought of it. But following my interest and my passion in getting better as a teacher, teaching in all kinds of settings after college, and eventually I found my way to Ellen Tad, and then I stopped searching so much. I thought this was when I was around 33, I think. And I thought,
Okay.
this is the teacher that I want to study with for a very long time because she has the missing understandings that I'm looking for. And that has
Yeah.
really proven true. I've studied with her for decades.
Wow. So then how did you find her?
I was living in Amherst, Mass, and
Uh,
Ellen was in Amherst, Mass, and she had a gift of clairvoyance as a little girl that she hadn't understood either and had kind of shut down. But when she was at Hampshire College, it kind of reawakened, and she dropped out of school and began studying with her guides. And they were
wow.
precision guides. They wanted to help her help people in very practical ways. So she was in Amherst, and my friend had been saying, Maureen, you ought to go study with Ellen. You ought to take her class. And I thought, "Ugh, one more new age, whatever." I was a little dismissive. And then
Sure.
I happened to go hiking with my now husband up in Nepal, and we were seated at about 17,000 feet. We'd climbed as high as I've ever been. And we'd been meditating on the whole trip, and we got into this
Wow.
completely Zen quiet. And in that silence, I literally heard, "Go study with Ellen Tad." It was like a
Wow.
push. So that's what I did. And when I had my first class with her, I just knew that this was where I was supposed to be and what I was
Yeah.
going to keep doing.
Yeah. That's amazing. Now, so taking a class with her, I'm assuming she's a Reiki master. Is she? I mean that, or
You know
does
what
that?
Ellen wasn't? Ellen was
Okay.
this naturally clairvoyant person who had these extraordinary experiences in college, and then following that, she really was taught by her guides on the other side. And
Yeah.
they were very meticulous in helping her understand how to help people do better in their lives, whether or not they had a spiritual perspective. So she wasn't
Yeah.
as much a healer as a counselor and a teacher. And she
Got
taught
you.
a meditation and philosophy class, and she also had private clients. And Ellen emphasized wisdom.
Mm.
So she would define wisdom as the ability to perceive the context and understand the consequences of our thoughts and our words and our actions.
Yeah.
So she was very precise with language, and she wanted to be very precise with what she practiced. And so, yes, she had a whole chapter of starting to learn about the chakra system, which is what I ended up bringing into the field of education.
Yeah, you did. That's what's so amazing. And now, when you talk about spiritual guides, can you please educate the audience, anyone that doesn't know what that is? Because there are religious people that they've heard of guardian angels, but they haven't heard of, you don't hear guides talked about in organized religion. Can you explain to them? I know it very well what it is, but can you explain to the audience what it is? Mhm.
Yeah, I think we all have felt it, whether we've counted it that way or not, a feeling of knowing something that feels like it's coming to us, that's wise and guiding and benevolent. And it might be, "Oh, really don't eat that right now. That's not so good for you." Or it might be, "Take that job, not that one." A
Yeah,
feeling, a knowing. And for some, I think all of us have that capacity. And I think, I wasn't sure what I thought about. By the way, I just preface this all by saying I don't bring all my spiritual perspective into my teaching of teachers and children because
sure.
I want it to be very open to anybody.
One.
In my own philosophy, when my mother died when I was in college, I began to know that we exist after we die. And I felt
Sure.
my mother's guidance. And so for people who have lost a parent or a beloved and have felt a feeling of that person around, it's like that.
Yes.
And Ellen got so that she could literally hear the words and she could see. And so it
Yeah.
was
It's
like being in
amazing.
the room with a master instructor who's telling you, "Ellen, we
Exactly.
want you to try this." And then she would do it, and then she would come back and talk to them about it. Really quite remarkable.
That is amazing. So, how did you take one class with her? How many? You said you studied with her for decades. So, how did this
Decades.
continue?
Yeah, I think
Hmm.
what was that year when I went to Nepal? Maybe 1998 is when I took my
Okay.
first class. And she would teach a
Okay.
series that was once a month for 9 months of the year. Or actually, at that time, it was weekly for the calendar year, the school
Oh,
year.
wow.
So I don't even know. I mean, I went every week when she was in Amherst. When she moved to Boston and it became a monthly class, I went every month
Sure.
since 1998. So that's a long time.
Wow. Wow. Now,
Um,
when did you specifically, so she was teaching you,
yeah,
and because dealing with the chakra specifically, because what I love about your website, I mean, I'm watching a fourth grader describe to me about the crown chakra. I was in utter amazement. I have never seen that. In the podcasts I've done, I've never done anything like this. And so that's why I think it's wonderful, by the way. This is good news. I'm so happy that they're learning about these concepts at such a young age through what you're doing. What made
yeah.
you think of educate? Well, how did this start? How did you start this?
Yeah, I was sitting on a beach in Rhode Island and I had that feeling again of like a Maureen, start helping teachers and parents,
Hmm.
start working with teachers about how you teach. And
Hmm.
so, I played around for a while and I didn't feel like it was going very far, very fast. And I went to Ellen and I said, Ellen, I feel like this is what I want to do. Can I borrow some of your work? Can I talk to people about how to access their third eye, how to calm their solar plexus? Can I translate that into language that would be fine in a public school? And she thought about it and she came back and said, Maureen, I think that my understanding of the chakra system would make a fabulous framework. And I called it wise education, and then she called it a framework for wise education. Most
Ah,
of the
okay, that's where
time,
it came from.
so I opened an after school lab to begin experimenting with how to translate her understanding into this framework. So
Really?
yeah, that little boy is my son, by the way, and he knows
Oh,
chakra
wow.
language because he's my kid. But other kids might do that same exercise that's on our website and call that their wise view, which is how I talk about it with children in school. How
Okay.
do I just did a class for kids last week and they were amazing. And in 3 seconds they had it. And then they were, when can she come back? Kids want to
Oh, wow.
know, and it might be helpful for your audience to just preface Ellen's very practical look at the chakra system.
Okay. Oh, you
Would
mean
that be
to look
helpful?
at? Yeah, yeah,
To say
absolutely.
what her experience
Well, there are
because of
seven
it.
chak there are seven basic chakras that people know about.
Yes,
And
that's right.
so, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
think it would be
that's
wonderful
fine.
for them to hear what you're talking about and how that influences you on a daily basis, those chakras. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
so Ellen had this very entrepreneurial querying spirit about the chakras because she could see them. She began to
Hmm.
wonder, could these chakras help me better understand human strengths and human weaknesses? Could they help
Hmm.
me better understand human potential and how to support it? Could they help
Yeah,
me understand why sometimes a really bright person is struggling with their physical discipline? Why are people so uneven in their development?
yeah,
And the answer she had after she did 10 years of intense observing and distilling the complexity of the chakras into what we call a framework for wise education or the wisdom of the chakras. And so the main points are this, and it's pretty simple, but it's profound. There are seven main chakras, as you know, and each one of those deals with distinct aspects of our inner nature. So she
yes.
really filled out, what does each chakra deal with? And what happens when it's functioning well and integrated? What happens
Yeah,
when it becomes diminished or dominant or flip-floppy around? And how
yes,
can we help? It's almost like imagining a flute. How can I help people tune up their own instrument so that
yes.
they're expressing the depth of who they are?
Mhm.
And so she found that honing well function across the chakra system truly supports optimal learning and development for every individual. And she
Yes,
also discovered the attitudes and the actions or strategies or um, things we can do and the environments we can create that help support that well function. And, also what we can do when, for example, a child who's struggling with stress or depression or discouragement has a closed crown chakra. That's the one at the top of
crown.
the head. And it's the one that deals with spontaneity and
Okay.
enthusiasm, inspiration, devotion, a sense of connection to something larger than ourselves.
Okay.
When it's open, it's expansive because that feels great. It lets this part of ourself come forward. We feel part of this whole of life.
Yeah.
When it becomes diminished, a child will pull back or feel discouraged. When it's too excited, a child will make unwise decisions because they can't stay focused when they're that excited. So we know more about the system than we may realize because we feel its function every day. We experience its function. And so,
Yeah.
therefore, it's kind of like, oh, wow, this helps me. I get it now. I get myself now. I get these patterns and I get them more. Now I understand children's behavior at a whole, with a whole different range of nuance, you could say.
Yeah. So then what about the third eye? What does that do?
The
What
third
does that
eye,
contain?
right smack dab. Now, in some pictures, it's here, and I think I understand why because that's sort of the middle point between. But
It's the
for
pineal
our
gland.
purposes, in my experience, it's right smack dab in the middle of the forehead, and it's unique, and it's the one center that's like a lens of perception.
Mhm.
It's literally like if you looked at a kaleidoscope when it's fuzzy and you click it into gear. When you
Yeah.
click the third eye, when you engage the third eye, you get clear, you become
Yeah.
discerning. It's like having an extra eye or a lens right there that helps you perceive.
Yeah.
And it dissipates fear when you're in that state. That's how Captain Sully landed that plane in the Hudson.
Oh,
Steady,
wow.
bird hit on engine one, bird hit engine two. You feel him taking his time to assess it. They land in the Hudson and he's
Yeah.
steady and focused the whole dang time. So
Yeah.
whenever we're concentrating and focused, this center is activated. And
What
right
about
now
what about the
yours is
throat chakra?
activated.
I want to go down each one. What about the throat
Yeah,
chakra?
so the throat
'Cause a lot of them
chakra.
don't even know what these are called. So let's.
Yeah, and they're defined differently in different books. Ellen never read another book on the topic. So this is all straight from her direct
Okay.
experience and mine and her guides and in our courses it's all, we want you to have your own experience and see if you agree. So the throat chakra is
Hmm.
the center of self-esteem, of knowing our own value from the inside out. Just I'm valuable because I am. I'm good because I am. I am. And I'm confident because I am. And it's also the center of communication and curiosity. So when this one's functioning well, we we like ourselves and we're curious to know more about you, about other people, about the world. A healthy sense of self-esteem is such a gift. And it's not
It
when
is.
it gets inflated, it can be insecurity can lead to a dominant throat trying to prove yourself and show how
Hmm.
great you are or have power over others. A
Hmm.
diminished throat can be holding back and not feeling comfortable expressing yourself or not feeling good enough. But with
Hmm.
a healthy throat, we really aren't cocky or pulled back. And we're open and we're communicating.
Like you're being now.
Yeah, like you're being now. Yeah,
Yeah, we're very connected to those.
yeah.
What would you say? What do you tell this to audience about the heart? I'm going to go down all seven. I want to hear all of them if you don't
Oh, the
mind.
heart. It's like, you probably watched Star Wars. My husband was like one of the
Sure.
kids who waited in line at midnight to go see the next one.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I was a huge
so
fan.
the force,
M.
I think of
Mm.
the force in connection to the heart chakra because Ellen discovered there's sort of an inner part of the heart chakra and an outer part of the heart. It's right in
Mm.
the chest, and the inner part is the intention to share love
Hmm.
and care about yourself and others. And the outer part is the expression of that. So we get hurt in our hearts, but
Hmm.
when the heart's open, it's like a radiator of love and the courage to be ourselves and do the loving thing and generosity and forgiveness and joy, the joy of, loving. But it's not a discerner. It
Hmm.
doesn't it doesn't see, it loves. So it's like
Hmm.
and the feeling of love, she says, love is like a force, a warm unifying force that
Hmm.
makes us feel connected and happy to be alive. I think that's a great description of love.
That is a
Um,
great description.
And also in the framework, we think about, okay, so but leading with your heart without discernment, you can picture a
Right.
child with a big open heart but not seeing very clearly. You know, your heart can
Yes.
take some hits. So the
Yes.
cool thing is picturing how this amazing third eye chakra
Mhm.
guides the love. And then it's loving, it's doing the thing that supports the growth of ourselves and others. And that requires discernment and wisdom. So
Yeah.
powerful when we start connecting these parts of ourselves.
Yeah, well, that's why I love that you're describing them because I think the audience, I hope I'm going to guide them down or that your throat chakra is in line if your pineal gland or your third eye is in line, if your crown's in line. Like the fact when people hear what these different characteristics are, well balanced people, they're all in line. All of these things
Yeah,
are in line, which is done
yeah.
through meditation,
Yeah, we could
communication.
think of Nelson Mandela. What an example of a very,
Oh yeah.
very aligned chakra system. And you can also
Yes.
think of it as all the potential of the depth of who we are being expressed in an integrated way
Hmm.
through the mechanism of the chakra system. The chakras
Hmm.
are the mechanism, but we're the depth. So
Correct.
our curiosity, our
Yes.
capacity for discernment, and
Hmm.
to feel a sense of wonder and connection with something larger than ourselves, whether that's God or spirit or nature
Yes.
or unending learning.
Yes.
Yeah. So people understand these things because we feel them, we know them, we see them.
There's the solar plexus. Well, how does she describe the solar plexus?
The solar plexus is this wonderful center, but she would say the most misused center in our
Mm,
world or in our culture for sure. It's the
mm.
center of emotion, which makes sense because when you feel that kick in the gut or butterflies in your stomach
Yeah, it's
or
in your
that
stomach.
or something you don't want happens, it's really hard. You feel it in your gut. It's the
You
emotional
do.
center. And
Hmm.
it's the center of also feeling a harmony and an empathy and human to human connection.
Yes.
So it also is not a center, it's the center of intuition, the felt sense, which is different from the perceived sense in the third eye. Perception and intuition, she defines them very distinctly, and I think it's appropriate. So the thing that in the challenge that happens in our culture is we too often try to navigate our lives from our feelings. And
Biggest mistake.
feelings, you know, well, you know what that looks like out in the world. Feelings are sort of self-centric, given that let me see. I love what she said, which is that perception informs emotion. So one of the exercises, and we could do it today, Kevin, and your audience could do it, is to
Mhm.
is to actually experience what it's like to be focused in your solar plexus and try to navigate a difficult decision or any even a small decision versus being focused here. And then the
Mhm.
feelings are informed by your clarity. And
Mhm.
that is a game changer. And kids can learn that in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It is amazing because it gives them so much more agency when they start to understand that they have a way to access wisdom and perspective and understanding and not be so confused by big feelings.
Well, yeah, especially because they're in there such, ages 5 to 13 are such a development in all of us, those ages. And when they're younger, a lot of our audience knows this too, but I mean, that's where you're closest to the spirit world and closest to like because you just came from that world, and you're there. That's really when you can get them. I never even thought of teaching them the chakras. I literally never ever thought of it. It's brilliant because it's so important to develop people in those. Everyone does develop in those years, whether they are developed in good ways or damaged ways, are what stay with them
Yeah.
for very, very long periods of time. So that's why I
Well,
think it's just so wonderful, Maureen, that you're doing what you're doing. It's so important. And until I read about
thank you.
you, I had no idea that I've never heard of anyone doing this. And I'm very in touch with this world of people. And I've never heard of
Well,
anybody doing it.
it's I wish more people are now because of Creative Lives training adults.
Right.
You
I
know,
want to hear about this. Mhm.
yeah, and what I love too is because Ellen's take on the chakras is so freaking practical. You know, if you're an executive and you want to get your team on board and you don't want to teach them about chakras, but you do something that gets them very focused and in the zone, it'll be a different conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I've
So,
noticed you have Foundation 1 classes, Foundation 2 classes. Can you go into those, please?
yeah, in the Foundations One class, because, you know, I've been in the field for a while now, and I know that things are more effective with kids when you really understand them for yourself. And of course, we can be learning together. It doesn't mean we can't be co-learning. But the
Hmm.
first course in our Foundations series is getting to know your own, getting to know yourself through the lens of your chakra system, understanding your strengths, and really focusing and honing in on weaknesses, areas where you want to gain more strength or better function, you could say. And so it's a sequential course. You know, each week we look at a different center, we do some practices, we read Ellen's texts, we talk, we partner. So it's really hands-on experiential kind of learning. And the outcomes can be really profound. One, a sixth grade teacher just took that training and told me that he had been, and this is the kind of guy you would never want to leave the field, by the way. He was beloved, young in his 30s. There aren't that many men in education. Please keep that
Yeah.
teacher. But he was like, I think I'm done.
Wow.
And then he was, I don't know. I'm open. I'm skeptical about chakras. By week 4, this is making so much sense. And by week
Yes.
9, the end of the training, he said, I am going to stay in the field because of this course. I'm on fire. I'm more committed than ever. And
Mhm.
you know, I felt so grateful for Ellen because her process, her hours and hours and hours of distilling what she learned about the system is really helpful. Really, really
How did they
helpful.
find out about you? How do you market yourself? How do people even know the
Well,
creative
we're
learning
working on
exists?
our, you know, we were it was easy going when I was directly working with kids and training a team to experiment with the approach. I mean, the programs were successful. They caught on
Yes.
like wildfire, and we had a big following of children in the Upper Valley and a lot of success. Moving, then COVID hit, and we moved into thinking, you know, it would be wise to codify this and help others really get it and learn it. So right now, I'm actively thinking about how to, you know, expand our market, like how to help
Yeah.
more people come to the training and or and I think the secret sauce might be in actually going and demonstrating what happens when I work with kids. You know,
Yeah.
there's sort of a status quo that we get comfortable with, and the status quo is a little hard to interrupt. And even if a teacher comes to a workshop and says, oh, that was really cool, but I got a lot on my plate. But
Hmm.
if I show that teacher what happens with a group of kids and they think if I study that, I could do that, then I think that's where I'm going to put some energy coming up next.
And
So
that's where
please, you know,
Foundation
keep
2 is. Isn't that where Foundation 2 is? Isn't Foundation 2 deal with practicing these
Yeah,
techniques with
Foundations 2
children?
is all about bringing what we've learned into our particular setting with young people. And that could be a wide range from the very early years all the way through high school.
Mhm.
Even the early years, teachers are shocked that children can learn to access their YZO at age 2 and have radical changes in behavior as a result.
I'm shocked by it. I never thought of the concept ever.
Yeah.
Now,
You
these
know,
are online. These courses are online, aren't they? Aren't they on
yeah,
your
they're
on
online. You
your
can take them from anywhere, and we're developing some mini trainings that can be more self-paced, so you can get your feet wet and begin practicing on your own. But yeah, they're online, so we can help people from anywhere.
Yeah. Do they now,
Because
are
it's
they done
helpful to
live or are they done with recordings?
we have a live as part of the training. It's one Zoom class weekly in the
Oh,
course.
I
It's
see. So it is done
so
live.
So it's online, but it's live online teaching as well and
That's
coaching,
great.
which is so great because we have a lot of habits. It can take a little while to go, oh, now I feel that gear. It's like studying an instrument. It can help to have a coach.
Exactly. Well, plus once they're in class when they're taking your class in Foundation 1, they're in class with other people, correct?
Yes.
They're on other
Yeah.
Zooms. A lot of people
Yeah.
want to feel engaged in doing that too. And as they do the courses with these people, they don't really want to miss if you know you're doing it with other people. And that's what I find. And so I think it's great that you do it live instead of actual recordings where they just, answer them whenever they want to answer them. Especially, again, the subject matter that you're talking about. This is a very interactive and a very energy driven. It's really intimate, even though everyone has the chakras. It's kind of an intimate thing to talk about. I don't know. In my view, a lot of people don't
It
talk
is
about it.
intimate, for sure. And,
Hmm.
in part of the intimacy, I love that you use that word
Hmm.
because intimacy involves honesty. And then when
Hmm.
you're really honest, that brings an intimacy. And so in the class, this sort of honesty factor and how people are really sharing about what they're struggling with, what they want to learn, it breeds this sort of beautiful, caring, and intimate learning environment. And
Hmm.
of course, everybody's there because of their deep desire to empower children in a really
Yes.
in a really hard time for kids. And
Yes.
so then, to see what happens when they bring it into their classrooms is really
Yeah. How
wonderful.
do they explain the internship? How do they do the internship if all of this is done online?
Yeah, so the practicum part is we look at actual scenarios that have happened and kind of how would we handle this if we were a classroom teacher? What would be our approach based on what we've learned? And
Hmm.
the framework is 7 categories based on the chakras. So, each of the categories is named for the emphasis of the particular chakra. So we have 7 ways of looking at holistic human development. 7 categories of holistic development. Maybe
Amazing. So
teaching.
is that where you started with wisdom and went to
Yeah.
curiosity?
So it starts with inspiration, wisdom linked to the third eye, self-esteem to the throat, good intentions to the heart, emotional
Hmm.
well-being to the solar plexus. Ellen names the next chakra, which we didn't get to yet,
We haven't
the
yet. Yeah.
identity chakra. She calls it the identity chakra, not
Ah.
the sacral chakra, because it deals with our persona in the world
Huh.
and our ability to be directive and receptive. An example, just right in our conversation,
Mm-hmm.
you are giving me so much energy while I'm talking. So you're directing energy my
Yes.
way, but you're
Yes.
also deeply listening.
I
So
am.
both of those sides are active. And I
And that's what
switch.
comes from the sacral, which, what does she call it? I'm sorry. I've always called it sacral.
She
What does she
calls
call it?
it the identity chakra.
Identity. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, the
Identity.
identity chakra, because it
Mhm.
deals with receptive and directive, and it's complicated because it's all about bringing ourselves out into the world, and it reflects our strengths and weaknesses across the whole, across the whole chakra system. So, but when you watch an athlete in that kind of balance is a metaphor. The
Mhm.
flow, it's flow, creative
Mhm.
expression,
I didn't know that.
confidence in being yourself out with others.
And then the root chakra, which is the final one that we hadn't discussed yet, is that rooted with the earth, with Mother Earth, or is that
Yeah,
not?
well, it's at the base of the spine, and yes, it
Mhm.
absolutely deals with Mother Earth because the base
Mhm.
chakra is also really complex, and babies don't have one. When they come in the world, we
No.
take care of all the details for them, and theirs is gradually, emerging. The base is the
Yeah.
center of disciplines that help us actualize our potential. So Ellen organizes the base into many categories because it's disciplines of the mind, things that help you hone your intellect, disciplines of inner well being, third eye,
Mhm.
inspiration, self esteem, emotional calm,
Mhm.
disciplines of the body. And that's very much linked to the earth because our human health is completely dependent and correlated to the health of the planet. So,
Mhm.
disciplines of the mind, and then the details of order and responsibility and the ability to create order in one's life. So, all of those things, when we attend to them, they feel very grounding. So, I think when
Mhm.
people say, I feel grounded, I think, yeah, you're paying good attention to the details of your life. You're not rushing, you're
Mhm.
being methodical. And
Mhm.
yet, if you can feel how important it would be to integrate that with inspiration,
Yes.
because without inspiration, all that hard work would feel like drudge, as Ellen would say. So we want a spoonful of sugar to help, or a little inspiration to go along with the hard work. And yeah, that's the whole system. As I talked down it, I can feel my my base more now.
Yeah, I bet you
But
can.
that base gives you resilience, right? Because if you have good habits and life hits you a curveball, it's
Mhm.
easier to come back from the devastation. And
Of course it is.
it, if you
Mhm.
don't,
And your
you
body
can
and
have
energy
trouble
sources
coping.
know when you're thinking of them. That's what the
Yeah,
people need to know. When you're thinking
yeah,
of your crown, it knows. You can feel it. You can feel the energy. It's
yeah.
amazing. It's amazing how it works. And I mean how you got it to children is just incredible. I'm so proud of that factor. By the way, what I didn't see on there, what does it cost to take your, or do you advertise costs, or is that per person?
Yeah, we
You
do.
change it?
Yeah, to take the training, if you take, we also offer it for graduate credit. So for teachers who are
I
looking
saw
for
that.
graduate credit, there's a little additional fee, but the cost of the
Mhm.
first course is 750 and the cost of
Okay.
Foundations 2 is 750. So if you put that together, that's
Yeah.
$1,500. A lot
Extremely
of
reasonable.
local funders will even help with tuition like that. So that
Mhm.
it's really quite affordable. And
It
that
is.
investment means that by the end of the training, with the two textbooks from Ellen and with the course book that I wrote with all these examples from the field, you really feel grounded and ready to move this out into your own teaching for the long term.
And are the textbooks included, or are those separate in purchasing?
Those are, yeah, the course book, my course book is included, and then people purchase Ellen's books on
Ellen's.
Amazon or wherever you like to buy books. Yeah.
How long
Um,
is Foundation Two? How long? I know that you said Foundation One is 9 weeks. How long is Foundation Two?
Foundations 2 is 9 weeks as well. So
Okay.
it goes kind of
Okay.
through the same, a little bit of a different schema, but long enough to get it in the bones and not so
Mhm.
long that it feels
Oh,
laborious
that's
or
a really
trying.
nice. And you said it's an hour a week, one time a week, the
It's an hour
courses?
and a half class, and then
Hour and a half
there's
class.
online forum discussion. And usually I partner people up so they have somebody that they check in with during the week about how it's going and what they're discovering.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah, it's hands-on. And, inside the course, there are video examples and things that help people really get it. But within the first 3 weeks, I usually can see whether a person is struggling to experience their third eye at will, like to really get that open. And if they're not, I can step in and really help within half an hour, they'll get it. So
Oh,
that little coaching piece of having some
yeah,
private coaching along the way, which is part of the course, that's really helpful too. Because we're all, we're different. We have different strengths and weaknesses. And for people for whom that's been a diminished center for many
yeah, for
understandable
so long.
reasons, a
Mhm.
little extra coaching is phenomenal, a big help.
And how many times do you offer this a year? Because
Three
obviously, if
times.
it's
Well,
together.
we've
Mhm.
been doing a cohort program where we're training teams from different schools. So that cohort program happens twice a year, and then quarterly we offer Foundations 1 and Foundations 2, um, typically. Yeah.
And how long have you been doing this? How long have you been offering these courses?
The first iteration was probably in 2021,
Okay.
and I put it all together. It was this big, fat, long 18-week course. And then we started dividing it up so we could get graduate credits going, and we honed
Yeah,
it. And then this cohort thing was so moving because groups trained together. And I think it was even more empowering for those who were shy about this material. And
sure.
they would say, I wish everyone in our school knew about this. And not only that, I wish all our training was together like this because we built so much intimacy as a team. So we understand
Yes.
each other better. And we are now collectively bringing this framework to our whole early, early education center, or the fifth, sixth grade pod is all getting it. And that makes a big difference. So
Oh wow. So there's a whole class that's getting this. Is what is that
yeah,
what?
yeah. Yeah, there's several early education centers that are now framework based centers, and there are classrooms around the Upper Valley and across the country where a teacher on their own or with partners is really implementing the approach. And it's been very heartening to see those outcomes. Yeah, I mean, I love it. And I can feel how much it resonates with you too, Kevin.
Oh my. Oh, if I would have been. I'm just thinking about. I'm 50 years old, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking about if I would have been taught this when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. It would have explained so much. She would have been talking about her spiritual guides, and or you would have been talking about them. Now, did she come to your courses at all? Is she still with us, or is she?
She passed away last June, in June of
It's really
2024,
sorry to hear
actually.
that. Mhm.
Yeah, she's still, right there.
Yeah, of
And
course.
she watched me teach online. She came to do workshops together. We did some teaching together. She was incredibly actively engaged. And even while battling cancer, she wrote the book, A Framework for Wise
Oh,
Education.
wow.
Yeah, it's very
Wow.
moving. It's a beautiful book. It's the companion to her book, The Wisdom of the Chakras. And then she also co-wrote Helping Children Thrive, which is our textbook for Foundations too. And
Oh,
I
wow.
thought it could be helpful to hear like a really practical story from the field. And this story is the one that made me know I
Please.
was going to keep doing this. It was a
Hmm.
little girl. She was a fifth grader at the time, and I didn't know what was the fuzziness about her, but it turned out she'd been on meds for ADHD since kindergarten, and they weren't working very well. In our program, our staff was trained in the framework, and they were bringing it to every subject that we taught after school, one of which was circus arts. And she was in that circus arts class and she loved it. She was learning to get focused in her wise view, to be balanced. She was
Mm.
enthused to learn. She didn't mind making mistakes. She felt good about herself, and she was connecting with her peers. Her chakras
Oh
were
my
all
God.
strengthening in that class. But
Oh my.
the counselor came downstairs um, one week and said, she's going off her meds. Be prepared. She's going to be really out of whack on Monday. And she was. She was melted down. I
Mm.
hate you. I hate school. I hate
Oh, yeah.
myself. I hate math. She had to do her math homework at school at her parents' request. And it was crumpled up on the floor for 2 days in a row. And she was just, sobbing and isolating off her
Wow.
meds. On the
Yes.
third day, I was watching her and I got myself more in the zone. And suddenly I saw to go grab the balance beam that she used in circus class, and I brought it over, and we'll call her Callie. I said, Callie, I want you to do an experiment. And, she was curious enough. You know how you feel when you're in circus class and you get in your wise view and you're in your
Mhm.
happy place and you're okay with making mistakes because you're learning. That is how you can feel when you're doing your math. So I want you to get up on the balance beam and walk back and forth until you get in the zone. And you watch her do it. Her face
Mhm.
relaxes, her breathing calms down. You feel that, you know what it looks like when someone's focused. And
Yes.
I just reminded her, I tapped her forward and I said, bring that focus that's right there to your math. And when you feel it slipping and you start to get frustrated, get right back up on the balance beam and get it back. And you can go back and forth as much as you need. On med since kindergarten, that intervention took 5 minutes with some pre instruction, right? She'd experientially been learning these skills in one
Yeah.
area of her life. Now she was learning to apply it in another area. And I watched her for 3 weeks go back and forth during homework. Fourth week, no balance beam. I asked her, Callie, do you want me to go get the beam? And she said, oh no, Miss B, I don't need it anymore. Now I just imagine I'm doing it.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Wow. That is so awesome. That is so great. Now, by the way, why did they decide to take her off her meds? I'm a huge proponent of that, but what was the catalyst for doing that? Was it
The
affecting her
catalyst
health?
was that the meds had declined in their efficacy. They
Yeah.
weren't working.
Yeah.
And
Because the
so
body gets
coming
used
off
to
them
it.
is hard, by the way. It's not an easy thing, especially if you've
Mm-mm.
been on them as long as she had been.
Yeah, you're so dependent on them.
She was out of it. But now she was learning what I call the mechanics of focus, which is specific. It's linked to this spot in the forehead. And it is, yes, it engages the brain, but the brain is not the third eye. They work together.
Yeah.
So psychology would say, oh, the frontal lobe isn't developed enough for children to make those kind of higher reasoning, thinking about thinking skills. Thinking about thinking is cogitating.
Hmm.
Discernment is the third eye, and they really work together, ideally.
Hmm.
So that when Callie was in her third eye, her thinking was clear and she could learn.
Yeah, that's amazing. How long ago was that?
That was in 2012, right when I started out. And since then, I have hundreds of like stories for individuals and groups for adults, teens, teachers. I mean, it's one radical transformative technique from the framework among many. But because the third eye is such a kingpin, if you will, as
Yeah,
Ellen would say, the kingpin, if this one's functioning well, it helps all the other centers function better. Same with the
yeah.
base. When the base is strong and the third eye is strong, it's like a wonderful, it just gives ballast to the whole system. So when a child is not focused well, they're going to struggle in school
Mm. Yes,
and or with relationships or wherever
yes.
their focus is tending to slip. When they learn to strengthen it, they get the perspective and they're so wise, even a
Mhm.
2-year-old.
It's amazing. And so you like to focus on centering the third eye and clearing the third eye and the root chakra with children the most. I was going
I
to ask
like
you that.
to,
What do you like to center
I
on?
do. I mean, that's probably the most somatic thing that I teach because I think it's really helpful for everyone to feel the difference when you're focused here versus when you've dropped your focus into your belly and you're kind of going by your feelings or your intellect is spinning. So,
Hmm.
but when I began, there was such a problem with the third eye. I kind of focused on it a lot with a little bit of neglect to the whole of it. So really
Hmm.
we want to pay attention to all these 7 aspects of children's potential. Each of the categories is really important, but the third eye is like you can't pay too much attention to it because you want to keep bringing it back and keep bringing it back
Yeah.
throughout the school day. And you want to figure out, do they need a break? This is, do they need to go run around? I mean, what's a healthy balance in school? How much
What
time
is a
per
healthy balance in school?
yeah, that's it's
Mm.
the unending question. What's a healthy balance is one where children are enthused and they're exercising and they're all these different parts of themselves are being attended to. And that you
Yeah.
could look a lot of different ways. But if you're neglecting emotional well-being, if you're overemphasizing the intellect at the expense of inspiration, how many kids and teens have we seen who were driven to excel but are not
Mm.
enjoying the learning process? That's
Yeah,
not
I mean, so
balanced.
many, so
So
many.
many. That was true at Cornell. I'm just
Yeah,
saying. It was great there, but there was a lot of intensity and stress.
because of where they're going. There's a lot of pressure to go to places like that.
Yeah.
You're pushed by your parents to do it when you're very young, when you show aptitude. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, but you're right. If you're not using your chakras to balance what's going on, it's just brilliant, Maureen. I mean, I wish I could talk to you forever. I really
I
do.
know, so much fun. So fun. Really, really fun conversation, Kevin. Thank you for having me. I
Uh,
really thoroughly enjoyed it.
you are wonderful, Maureen, and my guests will love it too. I wish you luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you. I hope we stay in touch. Take good care.
Yeah, take care. See you. Bye bye.